everybody. Welcome to the Sally Ellen podcast. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you. So, as you know, we use this platform to share stories of resilience. And today we have a very powerful story for you. I want to welcome my friend, Christina Brophy. Christina, welcome to the Sally Ellen podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, very exciting. But before we get into it, I had to force this introduction out of her because she doesn't like to talk about herself. So I'm going to talk about her.
Thank you.
Yeah. So she is a passion entrepreneur. She also is the founder of two amazing organizations. One is a nonprofit. It's the Women Empowering Network. And then she's founder of the Elite Network, which is a professional network. She is also passionate about the fight against cancer and domestic abuse. And when she's not doing all of that, her occupation is event production and marketing. And I really don't know where she has the time to do all this stuff. But I have to tell you, I met her at an event not even a month ago, right?
That was like a few weeks ago.
It was a few weeks ago. And I knew, like, this woman has to be in my life. Like, there are some people I literally pray for what I know and who I want in my life because it's all about the who's. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yeah. And I know, like, there's different women that I pray to be in my life. And when I encountered her, with her, by the way, with her, she probably says she's ADHD, and I fell in love with just who she is as she was flittering around. This was her event I was at. I'm like, who are you? I need to get to know you. So I feel this is an answered prayer, having her in my life on my podcast, because she doesn't do this also. She doesn't go to coffee much, and she doesn't do podcasts, and I got her to do both. So I'm quite honored to have her here. I heard her story, and it was so powerful. Y'all need to hear it. So welcome again to the Sally Ellen podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me here, and I always, I always appreciate any platform where I'm able to share anything, and not really to glorify myself, but like just to be here to be a voice or a resource or some kind of inspiration. So thank you for having me here.
Yes, talking about voice and inspiration, that's what your organization does, right? It gives voice to people and it inspires them. So I really like that. But, before you start anything in life, there's always a backstory to it. So I'd love to hear your backstory to how you got to where you are. Of course, I heard it, but I want our audience to hear it from you, how you got to where you are today.
Okay. Well, and I think before I share about anything, because I don't think that anything that I have or anything that I've been through would have been possible without honestly thanking God for getting me through everything. I'm not here to convert people to, religion, but I do thank Him for even to be here today. And this is the second time that we met, the second time that I've been late 45 minutes, but still, I don't think it's a mistake that I'm here today and that I am here to share something.
Yes.
So a little bit to try to sum up 34 years of life and just trials and tribulations and resilience. I would say that I could say, like, everything that has happened to me in life has been a circumstance, or everything that has been given to me, everything that I have gotten through, started from, I think we talk about a lot, comes from childhood, right?
Yes.
And so for me, I came from I always hate to talk about my family because I never want to embarrass anybody or even talk bad, because I feel like, it doesn't feel good about it. But I will say that I did come from a broken home. And I had, a parent that had a drug addiction, and there's just a lot of domestic violence that went on in my house, and a lot of talk. It was a toxic household, and it became so normal, like yelling and the police at the house and all these things all the time, that was normal to me. So I feel like I grew up in my teen years, accepting that and just thinking that it was okay. And so I could say that I moved moved out when I was about 16, and I moved out to escape that environment, which put me in another environment of domestic violence, and that is when I lost myself.
Mm.
I lost myself, but also going through it, I found myself, and so I've always been somebody who has been determined and knew that I needed to take care of myself, and I've always worked hard, and I would do whatever I needed to do so I could eat, so I can live, so I could have a place to sleep. And I think at 16 years old, it's kind of like you get to a point and you're like, how long am I going to have to do this? How long am I going to have to work so hard? So that led me to finding a boyfriend, that wanted to take care of me. And I didn't realize that I was in a relationship that I was only in it because it was like I think they call it, I don't know if it's a trauma bond.
Yeah.
Or, and so I was in this and I was controlled and I didn't have my own money and I had an allowance, and if I didn't come home, I didn't have that allowance. Or if I didn't come home, my things that were bought in for me would be destroyed, thrown on the lawn. I couldn't hang out with my friends if I didn't come home. Like, I was basically being punished. And because I came from a Christian home, if my mom even knew that I was living with a man, and I hope she doesn't see this podcast because I don't even know if she knows. But if she knew, I knew that she would be upset with me. Like, we didn't have the best relationship, but I also knew that I didn't want to be a disgrace but I had to be out of my home, and I needed that living situation at the time. So from that situation, there was just one day, and I believe this was in 2018. So there's a lot that's left out that it's kind of blocked out for now, but I think that in 2018 was when I got into the worst relationship where I had black eyes. I wouldn't go around my friends.
So before you go into 2018, I'd like us to go back to something that I want our audience to hear.
Oh, okay.
Don't be afraid. It's an easy question.
Okay.
At 16, you were used to what you were going through and what you were living because it was normal. But what got you to the point where you thought, I need to get out of this? Even though it seems normal, something prompted you to say, I need to get out of this. What was that?
So there was a day, out of my living situation or
Yes.
or with the boyfriend?
Your living situation, because you left. When did you leave? What prompted you to leave something you thought that was normal?
So, and I'm going not to, to bash my mom because I know she tried the hardest that she could with me, but I had a constant, I lived with different men in my house all the time, and I couldn't take it. And it came to a point where I was 16 years old and I could consider myself an alcoholic. And I would go out to escape what was going on, and I'd be drinking, and then I'd try to come back home, and my mom would kick me out of the house. She'd be like, "You're a drunk. You're not going to be in my house." And I'm like, I didn't realize that I was drinking to escape her, and it was just like it was back and forth. And then I would be like sleeping at friends' house or having to, sleep wherever I can. And I'm like, I'm tired of being locked out. And so I was just like, I can't do this every day. I can't quit my drinking, and I can't deal with my mom. So I need to be out of here. And so I think that. I think she threw all my stuff in a trash bag and was like, go be drunk somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so, okay, I left the alcoholic part out, but you got me.
I was just wondering what spurred you, right? We sometimes we have to hit that rock bottom, and that was it. You had hit that rock bottom. Your clothes is in a garbage bag. It's time to go.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll bring you back to 2018, where you getting bruised and black-eyed and everything. Tell us what happened.
So that's not what stopped me from, I was, not that I was okay with it, but I was just like, I got so used to hiding it. And, I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know where I want to go. So there was one night that I went to my friend's house, and he was like, if you don't come home, your stuff's going to be all over. You're going to be out. And it was like always this over and over. And I was like, I'm not going to go home. Like, go ahead. And so I came home and like I had heels that were broken, clothes that were just like ripped up, and my stuff thrown all over the lawn. And I remember like the neighbors like looking and just shaking their head. And it wasn't the first time that this happened. And I was just so embarrassed and I was just so tired of it. And like, I remember, I remember just like looking at all the stuff. I didn't even pick one thing up. I grabbed a couple of things in the house and I took what I thought that was important, and I left everything behind, like all little furniture, all my little things. I'm just like, I don't care about that stuff anymore. Like I had purses, I had shoes, I had just gotten a new Audi. Um,
Yeah.
you know, I had all these things, and I'm just like, I don't care. And I probably had about $1,000 in my bank account at that time, and I was like, I can't go home. I don't want to tell my friends about this. I'm embarrassed. So I got myself a hotel room until like I literally ran out of money. And I think I probably slept in my car for like a day, like not a day, I slept in there for like a few nights. And I'm like, okay, I need to take a shower. I don't know where to go. And so like I was like, I'm really gonna resort to this shelter because I'm so embarrassed, you know, to tell anybody what's going on. And so I showed up in a new Audi. You know, I had a nice purse. I had, you know, what I had. And I felt so stupid for being there. Like, I'm like, there are women here that, you know, are in whatever, they don't have a car. And so I was there, but I knew that I didn't belong there. And I really feel like God put me in that position to, I felt like I was lost my whole life. I felt like I
Mm.
had to be lost there. And that was like and you'll hear a lot of people say that they had to hit their rock bottom to really find their foundation.
Yeah.
And so I remember being in that home, and I was at the point where I still was struggling like with alcohol. And I was tired. I remember one night I was just like so like I went out and I was by myself on the floor in a bathroom at a bar, and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like I don't want to do this anymore. I don't have anybody here to like drive me. I don't have like I don't know. I don't want to be here. And so somebody in the shelter, I was like, oh, I go to church and I want to take you or whatever. So I started like going to church, and I'm like, okay, like, you know, and it was something, it was a start for me, you know, it was a
Mhm.
start. And as I was going through church, it kind of helped me want to be a better person. And I didn't know what that meant or what I was going to have to do, but I literally went on Eventbrite. And I was like, I want to find something inspirational, motivational. Whenever I was going through something, you would find me first at the tequila festival,
Right.
the whatever festival, to forget your problems, but to never work on your problems.
Yeah.
And I wanted to find something to work on my problems. And that outlet for me was a church. And it was going to a women's event that I founded in LA. And it was like what drew me in was come and get pampered and come and get free stuff or whatever. I'm like, okay, I'm there.
Mhm.
I went for that, but I ended up like there was actually a stage and there was like a lady speaking. There's only like 3 or 4 people paying attention to her in the audience, and I'm like, I don't know why, but I want to be listening to her right now. And I heard her say, literally these were the words that like literally changed my life was if you're tired of doing the same thing over and over, then stop doing the same thing over and over. And in that moment, like my mind went to, I've like the past day I've been thinking like I'm gonna go back to him because I don't want to live like this. I don't want to be struggling. But also I know that I don't want to keep feeling controlled or like I'm never gonna have anything of my own. So that was like my light switch was like stop doing the same thing over and over. And I'm like, wow, I'm not going back. And I
Yeah.
never went back.
Wow.
And I knew that inspired me. And I was like, I was like, wow, I wish there was more. I have never heard people, like, I never heard of motivational speakers, like, especially where I'm from. Like, there's not a lot of things like that to inspire you, help you forget your
Yes, sir.
problems,
Yeah.
not inspire you. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow, like, I want to do something like this.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I went, my aunt actually tells me to this day, she's like, I remember you telling me, you're like, I went to this conference, I was so inspired and I want to do something like this.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so I go back, you know, I go back to the home, and I'm just telling people like, hey, I'm gonna do something. And I started just calling some of my friends like, hey, I want to put together this like little conference. Do you think you could help pitch in? It's if you could pitch in $50, $100, you could sell your Tupperware, you could sell your whatever. It's going to cost me like $2,000 to rent this place.
Right.
So I started telling people about it. And I created, am I like,
you were still at the shelter when you were doing this?
Yes.
You're still at the shelter?
Yes.
I do have a question. I want to go back to, do you feel like everything had to happen at the time that it happened, or could you have done something differently to escalate this quicker where you were at in life at that time?
I think the timing was how it was supposed to be, unfortunately.
Yeah. So it's part of growth of your process also, because you went from 16. How long were you at the shelter?
So I mean, the moving out at 16, like that was a whole like. I feel like there's a lot that I left out, and because of the time that we have, I don't like.
Yeah.
I feel like that's but I think I more want to get to like how I even started what I started.
Yeah. So how long were you at the shelter before you thought like, oh my gosh, I need to do this?
Oh, I was probably there for, it's like my second week maybe there.
That's what I was trying to get at.
Okay, got it, yeah. Oh, yes. I was like, I cannot just be here just like watching TV and eating free food.
Yes.
Expired food, like I got
Good.
things to do. I always knew that there was a plan for me.
There you go.
But it wasn't there.
Good.
So anyways, so I basically put together, got women together, inspirational women. I didn't even know what postpartum depression was at the time. I'd never heard people's suicide stories, but I was just like, can you talk about this, that, and it was just things like really deep things.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know how I did it. I don't know how, well, the radio helped because they found me, but I literally brought together 500 women and about 100 women in business on my very first, as I was in this shelter, I was just calling people. I was like, hey, do you want to be a part of this? They're like, all right, let's do it. I've always been a people person and very connected, so I always have known a lot of people. But this was where I'm like, okay, let's put these people together and do something. Mm-hmm. So my very first event, I brought together 100 women, and my goal was to bring in $2,000 to pay for the venue. But there were so many people, I had to go bigger and get something bigger. And I brought in enough financially to get myself out of the shelter and get myself a place, my own place, like an apartment. And doing that, I never knew that it was going to be something that I was going to continue to do till this day. And yeah, so I feel like I started this event production and learning as I was going. And I felt sometimes people wouldn't take me seriously, so I interned with a marketing company. And this is how I started. This is how I developed my skills with marketing. Is like I didn't have money to pay for a website or business cards. So I'm like, if I can't afford it, I'm going to learn how to do it on my own. Yeah. And I did it while I was planning. And this happened in 2018. And then in 2018, I was like, I'm bringing in this money. I also want to give back. I want to help women that are going through domestic violence. I'm going to start a nonprofit organization, because I was always just giving to other organizations. Mm-hmm. And so 2019 came around, I was like found like by LA Times and other media, and they're like, do this in LA. And I'm like, I don't know anybody in LA. Yeah. And people would be like, don't go. Like, we don't want to see you fail. And something just told me like, no, just do it. And I was out there. And
So before we get to that event, I'm going to write it down so we don't forget the LA event. Mm-hmm. I feel like what you're saying is that you stumbled upon your passion, right? You just stumbled upon it, and then there was a ripple effect. What would you say to someone who's actually looking for their passion? It was so great that you stumbled on yours, but someone who's just looking, someone's listening to this and feeling like, I don't even know what my passions are. I don't know what I should be doing. What would you say to someone who's still searching?
I think it's figuring out, like, And I don't even like to say it like what it is. I wouldn't even give advice to like what it is going to be as your career.
Yeah.
It's like what is in your heart where you have a passion, that what makes you like this warm feeling that just makes you happy to do. And so for me, when I said I wanted to bring women together, to share their stories to inspire other women, that's all I wanted to do. I never wanted to do event production. I'm like, This is what I'm doing, but I don't even know that what I'm doing is going to be something.
So you understood, like, even though I'm doing this, you're willing to evolve and pivot to help more women.
Yeah. And I had no money.
Yeah.
I just knew that in my heart that I felt like this helped me and I want to help somebody else.
Yeah.
I consider myself an empath, and I'm a very emotional person. I always, because growing up, so many people have reached out to me, offered their homes to me, have lent a hand to me. I felt like it's kind of like my duty to like repay if I can in that way. And I felt like I discovered my gift was bringing people together. It's actually always been since I was in junior high. I always had the best party. I would throw the best house parties. Like I always had, like I'm telling you, it's like I used to throw parties, to party, but now I throw parties to help people. Basically, is the way I see it.
I just love that because you reminded me of when I was little. I was always the mediator in class, right? I love coaching and mentoring people, but I didn't know that's what it was, and it took me only like 10 years ago to figure that out. So it's awesome that at this early age you figured it out. I was 30, about your age when I figured like I can make money off of this.
Yeah, and I like to look back on things that I have done in the past that I had nothing to like I would say look back on things that you have done in the past that you were doing but you didn't know that you could use now. Like I look back and I'm like, and this is going to be for like, I'm going to say for event production and helping people. Like in high school, I signed up for peer resource. So that's being basically a mentor for other peers your age, even though you're the same age. It's like kind of like you're their, you're their person like to turn to. And I was my ASB vice president and I was in charge of organizing the proms. And I loved, being the MC and doing hosting the rallies. So now it's like, that was years ago, 20 years ago. I don't know how old I don't know. I want to, but I use it in what I do now. So it's like, look back on the things that you have done, and does it have anything to do with like where you feel like you're going? I feel like you have to at least know something that gives you that spark. Like I have a friend who she's like, I love animals. I have a heart for animals, but doesn't know, okay, like maybe one day you need a nonprofit. One day, maybe you don't even need to be the person. Like some people think that I have to start something. I have to create a whole company. Maybe you just need to be somebody who works with a company.
That's right.
And if that works for you and you get to a place where you're like, okay, now I want to start my own. I think that's the thing is even there's people like, I want to have an event because I want to speak. Well, maybe you don't need to be the one to put it together. You could have somebody help you to put it together, but your gift is to speak. So get somebody that already does that and you speak.
I like that a lot. And that's what I did when I started. And I didn't realize that's what I was doing. Like I started with the Big Brother, Big Sister program and I started to mentor there. And then it evolved into mentoring more people. I'm like, I could do this for a living because I'm so passionate about it. I tell my coaching clients when I sit in front of them, like, this is my happy place, and they can actually see it coming from like my very core of my being because that's how much I love it. But you're spot on what you're saying, that go back to when you were in high school, when you were younger, what spark, I love your word. What was that spark? But I drilled you, so I'm bringing you back to LA.
And before you bring me back to LA, I think a huge piece of advice that I wanted to share is sometimes then you get to that place where you're like, I started this podcast, I started this business, and then you're like, you put so much into it, and you're like, how do I make money doing it? How do I monetize? And then you get so stuck in I'm pouring into this and I'm not making anything, so let me quit. And I'm going to tell you, for the past 5 years, I have poured into like, my nonprofit organization. And I am nowhere near financially where I want to be yet. But I could tell you, like, my success is in the people, like, any goal that I have for myself as far as helping people. God has always provided me the resources and the people. And I could tell you the letters that I get, the phone calls that I get, and it's by hundreds of women that thank me. And for me, like, that my success is there. And I'm a very strong believer in faith that when my time is to come, it will. I've also been somebody who's had everything at once, and it's all been taken from me. I don't think my focus is on all the things that I could be blessed with. It's going to be all the people that I'm able to help. And when I am ready to receive the blessings that are meant for me, I'm going to be, where I want to be. But right now, I'm okay with where I am. I have enough to live the life that I want and also give what I can give.
I love that. It just shows your heart and really who you are, and I absolutely love that. And I think what you were saying, I wrote down 2 words. When your why is bigger than money and your purpose, you live a purpose-driven life because of your why, those rewards will come because your focus is not on the money. And I absolutely love that. The why has to be bigger than anything else. It's the same with my podcast. So would I like to monetize? Yeah, but what's my why? I have to come back to what's my why. My why is to give people a voice to share their stories and to share it in such a way that they can connect with other people and they can encourage other people. And that's what you're doing today. And that's all I need right now. That's all. Stick to your why, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. All right.
So back to LA.
Yes.
So back to LA. So then 2019 comes around, and I started my organization for helping women with domestic violence, and that was providing counseling services, support groups, really just a community to support women, even if it was just peer. Like, I mean, I had a great team that really helped with that. And then in that year, I got diagnosed with cervical cancer. And so my vision for, I'm going to start this, I did start the organization, but everything that I did, I felt like I wasn't able to put in as much as I wanted to. And it put me back into a place like, okay, so I'm the kind of person, I hate asking for help. All my friends get mad at me all the time. And I really struggled. I didn't tell anybody about my diagnosis for 6 months until, I was already in treatment. And then when I started losing my hair, I finally had to share about it. I had to shave my head because it was just painful, and so it put me in a position where I had to finally accept people helping me. My thing is, I went from being helped all the time to being that person that helps people. I didn't want to go back to that being helped all the time. But the people that helped me is the reason that I got through and actually inspired me to want to continue. So I remember I actually moved to Las Vegas when I in 2020 because I had no hair. Everybody was used to me, just being all out. And I remember the first time I went somewhere, I was like, everyone's staring at me, and I just started crying. And I'm like, I never want to be seen in public. So I moved to Vegas. And I would sometimes post pictures, and someone's just like, hey girl, can I do your eyebrows? Or can I do your eyelashes? And, being bald, you feel like you look like a boy. And I was just like, I guess. And I remember getting my eyelashes done, and I felt so girly again. And I was just I just remember looking in the mirror and how happy I was. And during that time, I had my medical bills were just it's expensive. Cancer is expensive. Yeah. So you're saving for your the co-pays. Yeah, I had insurance, but all these co-pays, it's usually your money is for your cancer. So I remember I decided I wanted to try a wig. And the first time I went to a store, I didn't look at the price tag of anything. I remember putting it on, and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like myself again. I feel cute. And then I was like, how much is this? And then it was $300 and some. And this was before I found out about you could get these things on Amazon. There's places. And and I couldn't afford it. And so I remember just walking out crying and just being like, man, this sucks. I'm like, one day I hope that I was like, one day, like, I want to be able to, like, the first thing I thought is like, I don't want anybody to feel like this again. Like, you feel beautiful, but you can't afford something, right? And so I'm just like, if I make it out of this, I'm gonna do something where nobody has to feel like this, right? And so I felt like I had to go through that season of not not finding the resources
Right.
to create them. So in 2019, 2020, I think I went into remission in, I would say the end of 2020, beginning of 2021. In that time, I added initiative to my nonprofit to help women battling cancer, and it was providing them with. So my events are what actually fund my because I don't like asking for help and donations. So I'm like, my skill is events, bringing money in through there. So I'm going to fund my nonprofit through that. So that's why I go so hard for my events, because I know that's what's going to go hard for my organization. So I decided to amend my initiatives, and I added providing wigs.
Wow.
I partnered with certain businesses that do eyelashes, and they would give me either a discounted rate or they would do it for girls for free. So to this day, like, we do the wigs. I have partners that do eyelashes. I recently partnered with a company that does like the scarring, if you have breast cancer. And a new thing is called cool capping. So I didn't know about this, but this is something that I always try to put out there, because you have to know about it before you actually start treatment.
Yeah.
But you basically what it does is it's my organization pays the copay for you to keep your hair during chemo. So they basically freeze the follicles with the cool capping, but it has to be like before you start.
Wow.
So I actually have three women now that that I'm able to help, and like they send me photos of like, this is where I'm at. I still have my hair. Some has come out, but they still like fully have their hair. So it's like, that's one of my goals. The thing is it's very limited. I mean, it's expensive. It's like $6,000 a person.
Right.
So that's really one of my goals, actually, is just to have more help with that, because it's like your hair is life-changing. It's like your crown for a lot of women.
Yeah.
So that was in 2021. Did my LA, did another one, did an event in Camarillo. And then last year, I had another encounter with cancer. And it was called APL leukemia. So it's basically a rare blood cancer. It's considered the most deadliest, but also they said the most curable. Never heard of anything like that. And I went in remission in 2 weeks. It was like this scare that I don't know why, but it really, that I was basically in the hospital, and the people around me were planning my funeral, and I don't know, like, I feel like my faith in everything that I had been doing the past few years was like so strong that, like, even though everyone around me was planning, my funeral, like, I was just like, no, this is just another thing, which I feel like to this day really makes me like, I don't think I was appreciating every day of life.
Yeah.
That when I was in that hospital, and it was like the lowest. I mean, it was the doctor said, like, if you wouldn't have come in these last 10 days, like, you would not be here today. The first 10 days of the diagnosis is like, yeah, if you don't get treated for it, you die.
Wow.
I'm not going to say you die, because that sounds horrible, but like the 90s percentile. Yeah. So that was last year.
Did you feel like what came out of that is that it showed you how strong your faith is and how much you have grown in terms of your resiliency going through that? Because everyone's planning your funeral, but you're like, I am going to get through this.
Yeah. And it really showed me like how strong it showed me, like, I mean, I remember the first time I went to a support group for cancer, I'm just like, I'm going to die. I'm going to this. And, You just think the worst of things. But I look back on my life, and there have been so many times where I felt like I could have been taken out of this world. But everything was for a reason. And it wasn't for me. It was to share about it with somebody. It was like I could literally look back at every time. And I'm like, I don't know what it is this time. Maybe this time is for me to appreciate life.
Yeah.
Because I do think that God really does put you in situations to help people, but sometimes he also puts you in situations to help yourself. And I am probably can admit that I am a person that has always put myself last before people. And I just think I've really, really just appreciated every day. Like I wake up and I pray and I read my devotional, and I'm like, sometimes I even have to just be like, just pause for a second. And when you're complaining about things, or when you think like this sucks, just stop and know that this is for a reason. Like the worst thing could happen to me in a day. And I'm like, my mentality is like, it's happening for something. You're either God's either teaching you something that you haven't tapped into yet, or you just need to stop and you need to go pray, and you need to go be grateful for something. I don't ever take anything as this is happening to me and life sucks, and because life is a gift.
That's right. I think what you're saying is you're living in gratitude, and you're living in abundance instead of a scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. That's great. So this has been so awesome. I feel like we could go on forever.
I know, girl. I'm telling you, we need I actually am having a documentary made on my life. And so we've been making this documentary for probably about 2 years. It's going to be done this year.
Yeah.
But it's like my videographer, he's like, Christina, could these events just stop happening? Because now we need to put this and we need to put that. And like,
yeah. Oh my God. But talking about events, what do you have coming up next?
My next huge event is actually the Women's Empowerment Expo. I have one in Los Angeles. It's the 5th annual. And I have my first one here in Las Vegas in October. I'm excited for Los Angeles because this is going to be the biggest and the best. I mean, I guess I say that every year, but I mean, it really does end up happening.
Yeah.
But I am going to have like some of the top influential women in Los Angeles, a lot of philanthropists, advocates, women in media, women with grassroots organizations, entrepreneurs, performers. It's literally going to be an amazing day.
It sounds incredible. Is it sold out, or are you still, people can sign up for it?
I'm not sold out because I had a venue which was smaller, and because of the amount of people that started to come in, I just recently got a bigger venue.
That seems to be a running theme.
Yeah, so it went from like it was going to be at the Burbank Marriott Convention Center. But I needed more space, and I wanted to do more. I wanted to have food trucks and just be more. I had a vision for something else.
Yeah.
So yeah, now I have this huge space. It's going to be, I would say, a festival, largest women's networking.
Yeah. How can people find it?
They can find me on Instagram.
Okay.
And it's the We Expo. So it's TheWeeXpo.
Okay. The We Expo.
Yeah.
Got it.
And I have like the link to register all in there. Yeah, it's like the 5th annual. There's going to be, I would say, I mean, I know I'm going to go over my capacity, but
yeah,
it's going to be good. It's going to be good. There's nothing like it. And not even because it's my event, but it's going to be powerful. Powerful women.
Well, you have a testimony of events, so you can say that with conviction. Yeah. So, all right, I'm going to embarrass you and tell you how incredible you are.
Whatever, Sally. I'm whatever.
And your story is so incredible, and I'm so blessed that you shared it today with us, because I know this is not, you don't do this, and this is the first one in Vegas, so I am incredibly honored that you're sharing your story. But what's a takeaway for our audience today?
Takeaway. What do we want to more entrepreneurial or
give us
life?
Give us like raw you.
Raw you, yes, I like it. Raw you.
Geez, on the spot questions. Okay. Honestly, I'm just gonna say is to appreciate every day.
I think you've been telling your every time you said something from like, oh my gosh, that makes such a good takeaway. Every time you were saying something, I'm like, that's such a good takeaway. But I feel like what you were saying is sometimes one of the things you said that really resonated with me is sometimes what were you saying, that you would numb your problem as opposed to facing your problem, and that doesn't serve you. Right? You were turned to tequila and you're turned to alcohol, and when you finally faced your
Tequila,
problem,
vodka, you name it,
Name
girl,
it, yeah.
anything.
yeah, and when you faced it head on, right? That's when you saw results, and that's when things started happening for you.
Yeah, I think you wake up. I mean, I pray that some people still wake up, but you wake up one day and you're just tired of, just like the words that I had. The words I'm gonna share, the words that I heard was, if you're tired of doing the same thing over and over, then stop doing the
Then
same
stop
thing,
doing-
the same thing over and over. And from that, what can you do differently?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you need to? And I'm not saying to go join the church. I'll encourage you. But maybe you need to join a community, a group. You need to, I think the best advice, I mean, my friend just told me today, like, Christina, you're not meant to do life alone.
That's right.
We are not. And if you think you can, like, I'm praying for you, because you can, whether it's God, a community, a friend, a family member, like, just keeping things to yourself is gonna just cause your own suffering.
That's right.
Like, and I think sometimes people are embarrassed to, whether it's going to therapy or just opening up, but believe it or not, that has been like the most freeing feeling, is to actually talk about things. And it feels weird for people to be like, okay, girl, like, give me a hug. Like, I'm here for you. Like, I know like, for me, it's weird to hear it, but I'm just like, I know, even though I say that I don't want to hear it, I do want to hear it.
I like that a lot. Thank you for being vulnerable with that. Because I wonder if you believe me when I tell you.
I believe you, but just like, I'm like,
I'm cringing.
I didn't grow up with affection, so like with hugs
Yes.
and all that. So
Yeah.
like as an adult, I noticed like people will be hugging me. I'm like, like even my siblings. I mean, my poor siblings. I'll be like, go to give them a hug, and they're like, ew, So it's affection is new. Like I really struggle with it, and I'm trying to like be more accepting of it, and I could admit that. But I'm getting better.
Yeah. Well,
And I might call you in case I need you in 2024.
or 2026. I like it. Well, thank you again. I appreciate your candor and being vulnerable and opening up a little bit. I know that's not like you and you held back a lot, but I appreciate what you shared. So thanks again. And friends, well, my takeaway, all the takeaways were good, but I agree with Christina. Like, if you're tired of doing what you're doing, then finish it.
If you're tired of doing the same thing over and over, then stop doing the same thing over and over.
Over and over.
Whatever that is. It could be eating, it could be drinking, it could be with people, it could be with a job where they don't appreciate you. Whatever that means to you, plug it in.
Plug it in.
Plug it in and take it out. So those are my words of inspiration.
Those are our words of inspiration. We're trying to do our takeaway, but it's just going on. But anyway, hey, thanks for watching, and until next time. Girl, that was so much fun.
It was.